it's great to have a North Star in life and in your professional life, but also being able to have that agility and flexibility to be malleable in any situation that you come into. And I think a lot of that malleability comes with an open heart and an open mind.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here. I could have talked to today's guest all day long. Her answers to all of my questions were so thought-provoking, and it led to such great discussion. Chelsea Suitos is the co-founder and the head of athlete branding and partnership for Players Collxctive. They are a boutique sports agency that focuses solely on representing female athletes. Now get this, she's not only the co-founder for Players Collxctive, she's currently working for Instagram full-time, focusing on strategic partnerships for creator shopping for sports, fitness, and entertainment. She has so much to share, y'all. We dive in and we talk about how Chelsea takes the emotion out of conversations. Y'all know that's hard. Why she believes it's normal to feel fear when you share your ideas with others. How she handles being a founder of a startup while working a full-time job. She talks about some of the lessons she's learned from her failures. We've all been there. She also talks about some of the challenges of being a business owner with strong boundaries and values. I cannot wait for you all to listen to our conversation. All right, Game of Her Own listeners, let's do this. Chelsea, welcome to the Game of Her Own. I am so glad you're here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Okay, we have lots to talk about. Before we get there, though, take us back in time and tell us when you first fell in love with sports.
Oh my gosh. I first fell in love with sports. I was probably 5 or 6, really, really young. And at that point, when you're so young, you have no idea the way that society is set up. And at that point, it was girls can only play these sports. And growing up in the Bay Area, my family was huge Raider fans, and we still are. And so I thought that I wanted to play football. And I wasn't aware of those social constructs at the time. And I just remember my dad was, my best friend, and we'd go outside and just play catch. And then I'd start to get super competitive with it. And in our front yard, we only had about 10 feet of grass. So I'd start on the driveway and I'd tell him, you need to throw this ball perfectly. So when I hit the grass, I'm diving full extension like an NFL wide receiver and catching it and securing it amidst the roots and like keeping my toes inbound. And I think that's the first moment I fell in love with the game. And it was multifaceted. I was with my best friend, my dad. You're just outside and playing as a young child, and you're just starting to scratch the surface of the world of sports, how that can make you feel.
Are you an only child?
No, I come from, everybody laughs. So if my friends are listening to this, they're like, Chels, stop. I come from a modern day Brady Bunch. I biologically am one of 4. I'm your typical middle child. So my sister, who's older than me by 2 years, is an absolute angel. I'm not saying I'm not, but I'm the one that was watching. I was watching everything she was doing and taking inventory and notes and saying, how can I do that better? How can I this? How can I that? And then I was also that hard-headed middle child that was so damn passionate about everything that I did just naturally that my parents said that anytime I was dropped off at daycare, that the teachers would describe me as full of personality, which I think in translation as like a preschooler is this kid is a handful, watch out, like put him into something, put him into sports probably. Yeah, then I have two younger brothers that are 3 and 5 years younger than me. And my parents divorced when I was in high school, really formative years. And so I was lucky enough to now have step siblings. I have 2 stepsisters married in on my mom's side. And then I have 3 step siblings on my dad's side. So a sister and 2 brothers. So if you're adding this up in your head right now, 4 plus 3 plus 2, we got 9.
What's really funny is I was like, I lost track. I need her to tell me the grand total here.
Yeah, we're at 9. So
wow, that's great. I love that.
We cover it all. There's nothing our family hasn't seen. Like you throw something out there, especially in the pandemic with what the world has faced, guaranteed our family is caught up in that web somehow.
Oh, so were you the only child playing sports?
No, my sister and I played sports feverishly. We did everything from soccer to basketball to softball to, growing up, we would create our own PVC hockey nets and rollerblade and do 2-on-1, and do slap shots with a wiffle ball. Like we literally played everything. And our family just loves sports. My younger brothers, one of them ended up doing dance, and he's a beautiful dancer. So in the traditional world of sport, as it was defined at the time, no, but I would definitely consider all dancers athletes. Yes. There's a lot of things that they do with their bodies that it blows my mind. And then my younger brother, the most he really did with sports was some of the wiffle ball and pickup basketball that we would play in our court, but nothing really in a traditional team sense.
Okay. I was trying to see where you got that drive from to, take diving leaps into the grass to catch that football.
I think I'm just a certified nut job. I've always I've been this way. I've always been this way, and I cannot turn it off. If I find something I'm passionate about, whatever that is, whether it's in the professional space or sports space, it doesn't turn off for me. And it may be, the way that my dad is. He was a big time athlete growing up, but he never forced anything upon me. I think it just was naturally by DNA. And then my grandparents immigrated from the Philippines. So you talk about a history of a culture that you don't have a lot monetarily, but you have a hard work ethic. That the way that my grandparents immigrated over here was through the Navy. And my grandfather actually started out as a cook in the Navy for the Philippines, helping US military. And he worked his way up, and it's something that he's so proud of. And everything that I think about when it comes to conversations with my grandparents is always based on that foundation upon hard work, honesty, and pursuing your education.
Yes, I love that. So talking about pursuing your education. So talk to us a little bit about you playing softball in college. I saw a picture of you that I was like, whoa, she looks super intense. Like, don't mess with you sort of picture.
Was it the veins popping out of my neck and I'm shouting?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that's an excited shout and not like you're going to get somebody shout, because I was like, oh, she's a badass. Like, look at this photo.
Actually, that photo was taken in postseason. I was playing Division I softball at the University of Arizona. And the way that the postseason structure is set up is very much like postseason basketball for college. So you start out with your bracket in 64 teams. You do a regional format, 2 and Q, basically on the disqualification. And then you move on to what is super regionals. So it's the equivalent of the Sweet 16. It's 2 of the top matchups that have fought it out of regionals that face out against each other. And for us to get there, we had pretty stiff competition facing University of Minnesota. And this pitcher had my number like the entire weekend. And my dad was there, and he ended up delaying his flight, trying to watch me. And I just kept playing horribly. So he goes, Chelsea, I can't watch any more of this, and I got to get home. So he left, and we're coming down to
for honesty.
Thanks, Dad, if you're listening to this. So we end up going into the bottom of the 7th, just like the way that the movie writers write something up like this. This kid's gone over. She's in, bottom of the 7th clutch situation at home. She's a senior. And I finally make contact and end up scoring the game-winning run. And so that picture was shot, and all that emotion It was my last game at Hillenbrand Stadium in front of our fans. It was the cherry on top of, one of the best seasons I had ever had personally and athletically. And, a lot of this that I attribute to the University of Arizona and the opportunity to be a student athlete. I went in there as a young 17, 18-year-old, just with winning on my mind. I never thought about education. I was always good at school, but I very much was that jock that said, school's easy for me. I'll get it done, no problem. But what I really want is to win a national championship. I want to play with the best. I want to be a part of a legacy. And that's why I chose U of A. And I will say that the opportunity to play for a man like Mike Candrea was an opportunity of a lifetime that I'll never forget. And being able to be a student athlete there, you don't realize how much the people surrounding you, whether it be your teammates, your coaching staff, your peers, the faculty at University of Arizona, within the athletics department and outside of it, just that circle of community and how much they develop you as a human. I never won that national championship, and I actually never went to the Women's College World Series, which was something that had never really happened for this University of Arizona program at the time. But now looking back on it, it was the best opportunity of my life that I would never rewrite. I would never change. I would never make a decision to go to another school to win a national championship, because I feel like I won a lot more in life when it came to my education, the people that impacted my life forever, and now what I'm able to do in the world of sport because of the foundation I built at U of A.
I love that. So you see all of the value, like, yes, you wanted a national championship, right? So let's equate this to, can we all set our own goals, whatever they are, becoming an executive in sports, winning a national championship, winning a title, being invited to speak somewhere, whatever those goals are. And sometimes you don't reach them, but if you look back at your journey, then everyone's story is different, but there's so much value in that journey and what you got out of that.
Yeah. And I think to that same point is that a lot of us in today's day and age can be pretty transactional, I guess, or another way to say it is we're focused on what can I get out of this, or what is the end goal? And we forget about the process and the development that it takes to then get to that goal. And I can't tell you how many people I've met in the professional world that say, I want to be a VP of this. And although that's great to have a goal and some sort of direction to get there, let's not forget about the skills that you want to learn along the way so that you can be that. So that when you get there, not if, but when you get there, that you're setting yourself up for success, that you didn't set yourself up as, for lack of better terms, a cheap firework just to get there. And now that you're there, you're looking around and being like, what do I do? So it always makes me go back to my coach at University of Arizona, Mike Candrea, where he always would say, trust the process. And as cliche as it sounds, I think about it in the real world context. And the best advice I ever got from a professional in my space was take that job because of the skills that you would learn and grow from, not because the title, not because the pay, not because the clout, but because you as a person will be able to grow and develop in that space and that's aligned to your passions.
Yes. I feel like we can end the podcast right now and everyone will get a ton out of this 10 minutes or 20 minutes we've been talking. I love 100% agree. And it's sometimes hard to trust the process. You don't know what's on the other side of it, so to speak, and you just want that answer. Am I going to succeed? Am I going to get what I want? Is this all worth it? I feel like is a major thing that we're just like putting in all this work, but is it worth it? Am I going to really get anything out of it?
Totally. And I think that's valid to ask yourself that when it comes to, is this worth it? But not more so in the fact of what you'll gain from it, but more so how you'll develop from it. And is this worth it? As in, is this something that if I was to die tomorrow, I would die loving I did it? Not because of, again, those very materialistic reasonings for it. So yeah, is it worth it? It's Econ 101, opportunity cost. Could I be spending my time elsewhere doing more impactful work versus spending my time here that's finite and doing something that's more transactional? And at the end of the day, only you can answer that for you. I can't answer it for you. Your parents can't, your significant other can't. That's something you really got to do some soul searching on, of like, hey, we all have the same amount of time in the day. What the hell do I want to spend my time doing?
Say that again about the opportunity cost. I like that.
Opportunity cost in econ essentially is say you have time, a fixed amount of time. We all have 24 hours in a day. I'm spending these 24 hours doing something. While I'm spending that 24 hours doing this one thing, what is the cost of other opportunities that I might be missing out on? So, for example, in another context, if I want to spend time with my family, what else comes at a cost to that? Or if I am spending time trying to develop this career in this one sense, what else comes at cost of that? Because again, that saying time is money, yeah, sure. But it's like, how are you maximizing your time in an intentional way to where you're paying your dues almost metaphorically for what you're spending your time on?
Yes, that was one of the first classes I'm sure everybody took in college. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved I was like, this is so clear to me. Like, I really thought I was going to fail that class, and I got an A, and I did not do well the second class. But the first one, it just all landed with me. And what I like to always say to people is, when you're saying yes to something, you're always saying no to something else. Is that okay for you? It does not matter if it's okay to me. It does not matter if it's okay to your manager. If you're going to put it in the sports, in a working context, it's got to be okay with you. You got to hold on to that.
Right. And that's exactly the conversations that don't stop when you leave the office, and they don't stop when you leave home. We always have choices in life as to what we do, who we spend our time with, what we spend our time on. So for me, being intentional about that and really saying that it's okay to say no. I know me, that I will run through a brick wall until the day I die. But at the same point, something comes at a cost. So I've even had to learn myself that it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, maybe not right now, but let's find another time to reconnect, because I want to be able to give everybody that I come across my best self. And if I know I cannot do that for whatever reason in that moment, that for me is usually the first filter when I say no. And in my career, I've been told no a lot. And so to the listeners, by someone like me saying no doesn't mean no, not right now. It means no, let's readjust. Let's find another way. Let's find another time. It doesn't mean it's dead and done, but it just means right now I need to prioritize myself, my mental health, my space, my work-life balance.
Do me a favor, share with everybody what you do now. You have 2 different roles that you play.
Oh my goodness, what I do now. It's so funny. I was just with some business partners this weekend, and we were filming some content, and I feel like I know what I do. And then when the camera started rolling, I totally blanked, and I go, what do I do? I couldn't gather my head around it. So
it's that point when someone asks you to just say it like in one. Someone did it to me yesterday. Like, well, tell me in like 2 sentences how that program works. And I was like, I'm a storyteller. Like, I don't know. You put me on the spot. So like, I had to come up with something, but it's harder when the cameras are rolling.
I would say I'll specify it on day job and just passion job. I worked at Nike World Headquarters for 6 years, straight out of college. And being at Nike was a dream. I got to experience what a big behemoth in the sports space looked like, how it was organizationally structured, and then most importantly, how I could use my platform as a former athlete and a woman of color at that, to impact meaningful change on the sports landscape. And what that looked like was influencing others and empowering others in their own job sets to believe in a vision that you can make the world of sport better for little girls everywhere. So that was my time at Nike summed up. Now my day job is I work for this company called Meta, formerly known as Facebook, Meta is the parent company. And my job is particular to Instagram. And so what I do there is, now you can shop on social media. It's called social commerce, very much like e-commerce. But now imagine you're scrolling on your phone, you see an outfit you like, and you want to know, where did Chrissy Teigen buy those pants? So what I do is I oversee sports, fitness, and entertainment as it pertains to creators. So in English, if there's a creator or high profile athlete or celebrity in either one of those buckets, sports, fitness, or entertainment, I partner with their teams almost like a creative strategist for them to utilize Instagram as another point of commerce. So an example of that would be Re-Ink is a brand that's founded by former players of the women's national team. And that falls in the sports space. And those athletes are creators. It's their brands. How can I give them certain strategies and tactics and tools and partner with them so they can be successful as a retailer as well on social media? So that's my day job now. My passion job that never turns off and goes 365 has been, we started a sports agency, a little boutique sports agency called Players Collxctive. And Players Collxctive is a full service agency that's focused just on female athletes. And that differentiating factor was really important and intentional for us because we're female founded and female owned. And the three of us co-founders all had that same type of story when it comes to what happens to female athletes in sports all too often. And it was, you're hugging your jersey at the end of your eligibility. You can go pro. You'll make less than minimum wage. At some point, it's inevitable. You will have to enter the workplace because the sports infrastructure at that time when we were all graduating college wasn't set up for females to be revenue generating athletes. Now we fast forward to 2021 with NCAA allowing athletes to profit off their name, image, and likeness. We fast forward to social media capabilities, allowing everyday people like you and I to utilize our platforms and create money and a career out of it. It is now the perfect time where we see a potential to help educate and empower women on how to vie for what your worth is, how to utilize different social media features in building your brand so that people want to partner with you, so that you can have additional income streams. And I think the most important part about this agency work that we're doing is that we truly want to level the playing field for all. And we believe that we need to do our part as a collective to then help influence the rest of the sports industry, to then see the value within female athletes and female sports and organizations at large, starting with the player at the center.
I have a lot of questions. I say this all the time to people. I'm like, whoa, okay, that was a lot. And there's so many side questions I want to ask you. Let's start with this. How are you balancing the two? You have two very, what I imagine to be like demanding jobs. Well, they're full-time jobs that they're demanding. They are, one's your passion. And so it is going to demand a certain amount of your time. The other one is a full-time job at Meta. Like that's no joke there. So how do you manage all of that?
Yeah, I love this question. And I get it all the time. And I always have a visceral laugh because the first thing that comes to mind is I still get 8 hours of sleep every night. So for me, I think I was innately programmed as a psychopath. And I use the term psychopath in regards to handling a large workload and being okay. And that becomes normalized. And it also fulfills you and energizes you. One of the biggest pet peeves I have is when people say, oh, I'm so busy. That for me sounds transactional. For me, I have stuff taken up every second of my day, but it's stuff I love doing. So back to the beginning of this podcast, I love this stuff. It never feels like a job to me. And that's something that Coach Candrea really instilled on me. But growing up as an athlete, those are your formative years. So as you're physiologically learning societal structures and how to operate in the world, you're also starting to create those habits. And the habits for me and what became normalized for me was, okay, you must succeed at school. That's a non-negotiable. You must do, like success was A's. I'd never understood B's because C's meant you're average. So B's meant like you weren't average, but you weren't great. You're just like, meh. So that was a standard for me that I operated in. Yeah. And then the second part of that was you have to do well in school for you to play sports. Well, I love sports. So again, another non-negotiable. And you just got used to going to school, going to practice, putting in extra work because you're very competitive and know everybody wants to take your spot, do your homework, get good grades, and do it all over again. And that served me well as a Division I student athlete because for you to be successful and sane, you have to learn time management skills and prioritization. And I would say even in my professional space at Nike or Meta, any one of these top companies in the world, the number one interview question I always get asked is, how do you prioritize your time? Or how do you figure out what takes precedent in prioritization? And for me, it starts with organization. You got to know what you're doing, when you're doing it. And so for me, I like to utilize tools like reminders on my phone. I color code a lot of things in Excel and put things in buckets and timelines with statuses so I know where I'm at. And then, I prioritize my own well-being. So I'm not always just running the midnight oil or burning the midnight oil. I shut off. And I know that for me to succeed the next day, just like me getting good grades allowed me to play sports, for me to be good at what I do professionally and passionately, I need to protect my safe space, which is hydration, which is also eating well, which is also getting 8 hours of sleep every night. So I use the do not disturb setting on my iPhone just to make sure that I can protect that space. So you don't want Chelsea after 9. You want Chelsea at 6 a.m. in the morning.
I am the same way. Do not try to have a conversation with me at 9 p.m. It is very difficult. And there are those times, I'm sure you're not alone here, where you do have to be on at a 9 o'clock for whatever reason. And it takes a lot of caffeine and planning, but it's not sustainable for me past like 3 or 4 days.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I like to utilize tools too to turn inwards to see what's going on with my body. Because again, growing up as an athlete at that point in time when rest and recovery wasn't number one, it was like, you must go hard all the time. Pain is, weakness leaving the body. So
I can't.
Now, exactly, I'm triggered already talking about it. But now I understand in order for me to go far and fast, I need to slow down. I need to slow down to speed up. And the ways that I slow down is when I'm feeling overwhelmed, anxious, let me do a 10-minute meditation in the Calm app. Let me go for a 10 to 20-minute walk unplugged. So I can desensitize, I can reset. Or I call my dad, I call my family. Those are other ways that are low lift where I can be re-energized and reset just a little bit so I can get after it again. And this Aura ring tells you everything. It tells you, girl, you need to rest.
I don't want to buy that because it's one of those things where if I buy it, I'm just going to be like obsessed with it. Game of Her Own listeners, have you heard the news? The doors to the Be Seen and Heard at Work group coaching experience are open. I'm talking about the program that will help you take the next level in your career. This means doors are open. You can save your seat before we run out of space. And if you were wondering if this program is the right fit for you, where you are in your career right now, I will keep it super simple for you. It is. Oh, I'm kidding. I don't know that yet. But let me tell you what my clients have told me. My clients have joined the program because at the time they felt defeated, not being able to move to the next level. At the time, they felt emotionally drained because they were stuck and frustrated with not being seen and heard at work. They were done with not growing in their career, and they refused to let it continue to negatively impact their personal lives. In our group coaching program, when you are done, I'm telling you, not even when you're done, when we start, you are going to start to build a strong executive presence. You're going to learn how to advocate for yourself without feeling like you're bragging. You're going to quiet that self-doubt that pops up and holds you back. You are going to be that change agent that uses their voice and speaks truth to power. I love to talk to all my clients before they enroll in any of my programs. We got to make sure it's the right fit. My point, let's chat to see if this group coaching program is the right fit for you. Scroll down in the show notes to where it says Be Seen and Heard at Work. Click the link. The rest is super easy. You're going to schedule a time for us to chat. And I mean it when I say I can't wait to chat with you. And if it's the right fit, I would be honored to support you. Okay, friends, let's get back to the episode. Tell me this. I love that you commit to rest and making sure that you find a way to re-energize yourself and disconnect when you need to and listen to your body. That's so important. How in the world, starting your own business is not easy. Someone say that like people who start their own business, they're not sane. And sometimes I would say, yes, you're right. So how do you really live into these values?
I feel like I live into these values because I know myself best. I know that I am not my best self unless I fuel myself. I know that if I go off the wire and I start eating unhealthy, ultra processed foods day after day after day. For example, when I go home with my Filipino family, I love them, but I'm not used to eating fried foods every day and super heavy foods. And it's like a workout every hour on the hour. You know, my grandma's trying to serve something up to me and I feel disrespectful saying no, or like I'm full, because that doesn't exist. And we show love through food, but I know that it's not sustainable for me. I know that I'm tired, I'm grouchy. I just know what happens. So being able to have that foresight and intuition as to what will allow me to be my best self, food, people, unplugging, that's what allows me to really lean into the rest and recovery, because Chelsea, not at her best self, is not someone anyone wants to be around. And any room I walk into, I want to be able to give my full undivided energy and attention to that, because I'm not a transactional person.
In your business, what, and in the, the business that you co-founded, what challenges you the most that almost keeps you from living into those values?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Some of the challenges that I've been trying to work through and find different systems to be more efficient on is that there's a lot of moving parts. And for example, I'm usually the first point of contact when it comes to our athletes and their needs. And because we want to differentiate ourselves as an agency and be really intentional about helping these athletes grow in 360 degrees of their life, that means that I need to be agile and ready for whatever life throws at them. And you and I both know you can't ever be ready for everything. So I think some of the challenges are learning how to prioritize in those moments of, I've got an athlete that's going through this. Is this immediate response needed? Or do I say, hey, can I get back to you on this? I hear you. I see you. Let me do some thinking on it. And those are the ways I can still be thoughtful and not run around in a reactive fashion. I think too, just as we grow, trying to find ways to scale and becoming efficient in operations, communications. And I think that's probably every business person in their first year. After year one, you kind of look back and do a hindsight and say, okay, what did we do well? What worked? What didn't work? What's our growth plans for this year? How will it set us up for the next 2 years? And reevaluate on the way. And I think right now, as we've started to gain so much traction, that we're now trying to balance in a great way the attention we're getting from outlets and athletes and organizations at large to figure out what makes sense now, what makes sense in 3, 6, 9 months, a year from now. So again, it always goes back to prioritization and communication. And part of that communication also being keeping it somewhere where hey, I got to follow up on that.
Yeah. So I'm hearing prioritizing, balance, and then I hear some communication as well. Like the three things that can challenge you. But if you stick to these 3 pillars, if you will, it seems to help you protect your boundaries and your rest and, the things that are really important to you.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of these pillars are not just specific to sport or specific to your professional life. None of this stuff lives in a silo. What I do at home and who I am at home is also the way that I show up at my professional spaces. So for me, it's consistency that's woven through each one of those pillars. I have to have balance for me to show up as the best meta employee, but also the best agent to our athletes and business partners. I have to be able to have prioritization so that I can be efficient in the way that I operate in my projects at Meta, but also the way that I figure out how to give my time to my family, my friends. It never is a one and done. It goes across every facet of my life.
Yes, I think that's great for others to hear as they are trying to just figure this out too, whether they're starting their own business or they're working or they just started working or they're, an executive. It's never you set this plan and then it's good to go. I'm going to set these boundaries and I'll be fine for the next 5 years and then I'll reevaluate them. It doesn't work like that. Like you have to there's that protect it, but also have that flexibility to adjust to whatever works for you.
I mean, that's life, right? And such in a metaphor right there. If I'm some CEO, you're creating your business strategy plans for the next 3 years. Okay, well, COVID hit. Is that plan still the same? No, you got to readjust. If your plans didn't ladder up to sustainability and we're facing like a global climate crisis, you probably got to readjust. So it's great to have a North Star in life and in your professional life, but also being able to have that agility and flexibility to be malleable in any situation that you come into. And I think a lot of that malleability comes with an open heart and an open mind. And, leave the ego at the door. It's okay that I said this, but now that I'm learning more and becoming more educated about a subject, you name it, let me flex with that. That's good. That's actually evolution in a sense, right? So
yes. Yeah. Tell me this. Now, on paper, I guess all of us, when you look at our resumes or our LinkedIn profile, there's no bullet points that list failures that we had, which I'm not going to be the first to do it. Let me be honest. But if you did, there's so many lessons that come out of our failures, right? And so that's why I have this podcast, because people talk about things that went wrong and it helps the next person who comes behind them. So tell me, do you have a favorite failure, something that you failed at, but you had a big lesson right after it?
Yeah. I mean, look, like I have many failures every single day. And that's the best part about being resilient is those are the best teachers in life. Oh, I ordered the wrong coffee. Probably a fail. Wasn't intended. Let me readjust next time. Or, ooh, I responded in that meeting when I probably should have taken 24 hours and been more thoughtful in my approach. And I would say one of the biggest lessons I have learned is just that. The latter point is to take in information in situations and really be thoughtful about digesting it. And that it's okay to take the 24, 48 hours a week and just say, I need some more time on this before feeling forced to respond. And I label this as a quote unquote failure because a lot of times the first response that we elicit from ourselves may not always be the best response. That can be a reaction to your partner or a reaction to a business plan or opportunity that was presented to you. And I think starting your own business with other partners involved and athletes in their futures, their lives, truly in the palm of your hands, you have to be thoughtful. And so I have had to learn how to be flexible and how to be patient and how to just let go and trust that even if it's not me doing it, that I can empower the team around me. Because a lot of times you want to say, oh, I have this experience. Therefore, I may be the most intelligent or well-suited person in the room, right, wrong, or indifferent, to have a say on this topic. And I think when we take that approach, we create an exclusive environment, which that is never an environment that I want to be a part of, nevertheless, lead and create. So I have had to learn specifically in working with the different business partners in Players Collxctive to say, yeah, I've got these corporate experiences, but it doesn't mean that my experience is more than or less than my partners. They're different, but that's a great part about creating an inclusive thought partnership environment where you're empowering others as a team. So I would give that advice to anybody listening is, really try your best to leave your ego at the door. And before you talk about anything you can do or want to do, why don't you hear from a couple other people beforehand, because they might have better ideas than you, and or they might also have ideas that can weave into yours as well and create, a better multiplying effect.
Yeah, the power of collaboration. When I was first coming up, I thought I had to come up with the groundbreaking idea.
Right.
It was never going to happen. Like I needed others to weigh in. And then I created such better programs when I had other people weigh in and give their 2 cents and, poke holes in things that I was doing. And I learned not to take those things personally, right? Through failing, I learned not to take those things personally anymore and realize that they're trying to help. And just because someone gives you a great idea doesn't mean you can't still lead a project. It's the, you know what I mean? Like I wish that young 20-year-old Jahaan knew that, because I thought it had to be me, right? It had to be me who did the things.
Yeah. And to that point, Jahaan, I think it's interesting because we live in such a present day, accelerated, immersive, technology-driven world where we forget that technology and our lives, the way that we live it, have sped up faster than our bodies can evolve. And so a lot of times in present day settings where we get protective over our ideas, and we want to be the one to win comes from a primitive programming that we all have innately of survival. You feel like someone else might be threatening your way of life or competition because that's how we were created and that's how we've survived and evolved. But again, it's through those collaborative efforts, like a family, like a tribe, like a group of coworkers, like a team that help bring you forward.
Yes.
I'd rather have a team with me. Yeah.
Yeah, that is well said. And I think that's it too, because then you realize so from to walk you through my 20s, like, then it was like, oh, collaboration is better. Well, what was wrong with me? Why didn't I think that collaboration was better? Why was I like hell bent on having this idea and it being my own? There's something wrong with me. I'm selfish. I'm this. Nah, you're just wired that way. Right.
Exactly. Exactly. We don't talk about it enough. We're just like, we chalk it up to putting it in a box and saying, oh, Chelsea is hard to work with, or, oh, Chelsea is hard-headed, because it helps us digest what the heck just happened in that situation.
Yeah.
So we could feel at terms with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Now I have no problem saying to somebody on my team, if we're working on like a consulting project, I'm always like, I'm going to be protective of this, but I still need you to push back, give ideas, come with it. But this is a new project. This is a new client. So right now I'm at a level 10 on everything because it's my business, but I want you to push back. Don't be afraid of me.
But that's it though. Back to the point we're talking about a few minutes ago of communication. Just clear communication and respectful upfront communication is one of the biggest learnings I've had. And a lot of communication also comes in the form of, instead of saying my idea, then what's your thoughts about it? Say, you can change it in the way that you even word a question. Hey, give me your thoughts on, insert the idea you might be thinking about without saying, hey, this is my idea. So this person can speak freely on the subject matter without feeling like they have to perfectly construct something so that it pleases you or doesn't piss you off. So that's one of the other skills I would highly encourage our listeners to do is, instead of telling somebody an idea, asking them in concept about what their thoughts are, or if they were to lead something like that, how would they approach it?
Yeah.
It also is inclusive. So
it is. And I find myself doing it in every aspect of my life. Ladies, it works with your husbands or your partners as well. Like it just, I use it on my husband all the time. So try using it on your partner. It works. It just, they feel a part of the process.
And it's safe. It's a safe style of communicating where it's saying inadvertently, I want your opinion.
Exactly. So one more question before we move on to rapid fire. What is it like? I mean, there is no shortage right now of stories about women athletes and women's sports not getting the recognition they deserve. But you're running a business where you only represent female athletes. So talk about what that has been like, and how long have you guys been in business?
Well, we filed for an LLC in March of 2021, and today is March 3rd of 2022. So operating efficiently or starting, that would be July of 2021. So we were like 6 months-ish. But I think when it comes to operating in the women's sports space, we've been there personally. So we can empathize and understand every scenario that these women are going through, which helps us. I think too, we've all been on the corporate side as well, being the mouthpiece for these athletes in those capacities. So that also helps us. I think too, we understand what our job is. And a lot of that too is having the tough conversations on behalf of female athletes, channeling our inner experiences that we had faced personally, but also our experiences that we went through in corporate America on the same conversations and tying them all together. So for us, we truly, and I'll put, everything on it that I have, is that I believe that we're the only agency out there in this world that has truly gone through the trenches. And we see these athletes as people, not profit. People, not profit. And because we're driven in the stern of our business, any direction we go has to have some sort of purpose ingrained in it, not transaction. So when we talk about, leveling the playing field for all, which is part of our mission statement, is We want to inspire change, creating that level playing field for all. And that means whatever we have to do to have those conversations with the athlete at the center to where we can take the emotion out of it for these businesses is where we will succeed. And if I could dream up a world of women's sports, is that when people talk sports, they don't have to differentiate by gender. Like, come on, that's so old. Get rid of it. I think 2, women's sports don't just have to follow men's sports. Just because of the way that these systems had worked in the past doesn't mean that that's the way forward to the future. So let's innovate. Let's create different formats so that women can have a sustainable career in professional sports. And I would say the last 2 things is 1, put the athlete at the center always. If you want to come talk to me about women's sports, don't start with what your return on investment is going to be, because then I'm just going to think you're a selfish person that's not in it for the right reasons. You tell me why you want to invest in these women, and it better be, I want them to have the same medical benefits that someone in corporate America gets, or that, so-and-so gets in their professional deals. Or I want to create a world in sport where my kids can benefit from it because I know how much sport gives back to these people. And I guess that would be it, is that I just really want to see equity across sports. And equity doesn't always mean it has to look, feel, and act the same as what men's sports is today as we know it, that it might be different, but equity is on the same playing field. Male
or female, I do, and please tell me if I'm wrong here, I do feel businesses, all they see is, I want to invest because of money, is dollar signs. Like,
that's business, basically.
Right. So how do you deal with that when someone is leading with ROI, because that's all they care about?
It's a difficult conversation. I think I use a lot of de-escalation tactics to try and take the emotion out of it, and relatability of, if this was your daughter, or this was your sister, if this was your mom, how would you change the narrative of that conversation or of that ask, besides padding your pockets or getting a return on investment? What's also business 101 is we know that typically businesses aren't profit forward in their first year. So let's talk about big picture. 20 years from now, when you're starting today and you look back, what's the impact you want to make? If then at that point, it's, I want to be a multi-billion-dollar behemoth, it's probably not the person I want to keep in my circle, because again, our purpose and our passions are misaligned. And when I think about people that I want around our athletes, around our business, it's those people that believe in the same thing we do. And again, like I said, we see them as people, not profit. I truly believe in my heart of hearts, you do the right thing, money comes. We did this at Nike. They thought I was crazy. I said, this is what it's going to take to serve female athletes in softball authentically. We do the right things. Don't talk to me about money. And what came from that was revenue. Because you got to start with the athlete at the center. You have to be authentic. You have to do the right thing by and for the athletes. When you do that, people want to work with you. They gravitate towards you. That's where you get your money.
Yeah. Do you have your own podcast or some platform that you're always talking? Because you should.
I don't, but thank you. Maybe I'll pick your brain later on how I can do that, because I'd love to ask you a bunch of questions too.
Done. I will let you know. All right. Are you ready for rapid fire?
Yep. We talking 1-word answers. Quick, go.
I mean, we try 12 questions.
I'll tighten it up.
First thing that comes to your mind. What is your favorite sports moment?
Probably playing football in our court with my dad, where he's just throwing the ball as hard as he can at me and say, catch it with your hands, not your chest. Does that count?
Yes, of course it counts. 100%. What is something people always get wrong about you?
They think I'm intimidating.
What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Oh my goodness. Onions, raw, not grilled.
Stop.
It's disgusting. I swear. My partner's going to kill me for that.
Stop it. I don't even you must have the strongest stomach ever. I raw, no, absolutely not. I think we know the answer to the next one, but I'll ask it anyway. Morning or night person? Morning. Favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving. Family.
Yep. What job would you absolutely be horrible at doing?
Anything that's very detail oriented in the operations space.
Got it. Noted.
I don't know what that looks like because I don't want to do it. I like to think big picture and empower people to do a collective effort to get things done.
Got it. So we would never work on a Super Bowl project together on the operations side.
I would love to learn. Maybe I could love to or learn to love it.
Yeah,
I'm open.
I think there's another place at Super Bowl for you.
I think so too.
Something empowering, something around females. We should talk about that. All right. What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it?
Oh my gosh, I did this, and this is vulgar. My Kotex U tampons. I'm sorry if you got to cut that one out, because they actually did it. They actually did it at one point, and I was like, I can't find them in the stores. I can't find them at the gas stations. I can't find them at Target. I can't find them anywhere. And then I started Googling, and they had discontinued them, but I think they brought them back on because so many women were upset with it. It's such an intimate thing for us. So I ended up stockpiling them. I bought, I want to say, like over 16 big multi-packs of them from Amazon, and we don't have any more storage space in my house because I'm like preparing for the end of the world. I'm sorry.
That is it. That is a good one. Okay. I feel like the next two questions you may answer differently because of who you work for. What is your favorite app?
I genuinely do love the Instagram app, but I also love the Google Drive app as a nerd. It's terrible. I love it. It's so easy. The whole Google suite.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Next question is Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram?
Instagram.
Do you even have Facebook?
I'm not just, I do by default.
Same.
Yeah. So it's there. It's more so like a photo album for all my families and a good way to stay in touch with, family members out of state, overseas, you name it.
Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
I have three. My dad, my grandparents, both of them. I'm a big grandma's girl. I just really appreciate their work ethic, everything they've gone through, how they've gone across multi-generational, world issues, countries, circumstances, and they've just been so resilient and have never changed who they are for it. And then my head coach at University of Arizona, who's now retired, Coach Candrea. I never believed him, when I was a young 18-year-old signing my national letter of intent. And he said, I'll be like a father figure to her. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, guy, you're selling me the dream. But he is that man. He is one of the people with the highest character and level of integrity and heart and good, just a great heart that I wish more people modeled their way of life after him.
I hope he listens to this episode, at least this part.
I'll send it to him.
As a child, what did you wish to become when you grew up?
I wanted to be a football player. And at some point, I think I wanted to be a boy so I could play football, although I don't want that anymore. My very young self just wanted to be an athlete forever. And I think that's part of the athlete identity transition that a lot of people struggle with. So
yes,
it's real.
100% agree. We could have a whole panel discussion with former athletes on that. Finish this sentence. Last question. The future of women working in sports is
equal, accessible, and exciting.
I love those. And Chelsea, it has been amazing having you on. If people want to get in touch with you, I know they're going to want to do that. How can they go about getting in touch with you?
Yeah, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Suitos. C as in cat, S as in Sam, W, 2 E's, E-E, T as in Tom, O, S as in Sam. And from there, just shoot me a message. It's super, super easy. And I try to give everybody the energy that I can at that given point. So don't be shy. I am not intimidating. I would love to help anybody that may be struggling with anything that we had talked about today. So don't be a stranger.
That's fantastic. And how can they find out more about Players Collxctive?
I have Players Collxctive linked in my Instagram bio, so you can click there. One note about the spelling of collective, it's spelled COLLXCTIVE. And the purpose and symbolism behind the X is, as we're on our mission to create a level playing field for all, the X represents a multiplying factor of individuals, allies, organizations, industries, teams at large, all coming together to make that impact, to level the playing field in the truest fashion. So follow us on IG. We're loading stuff pretty much every day, every week. We got a lot of fun athlete highlights, partnership announcements, and just anything around the world of name, image, and likeness. We're truly, a female first platform.
Yes. Chelsea, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much. I'm just really humbled to be here, and we need more conversations like this. So thank you for creating the time, the space, the atmosphere to be able to have these conversations, because they're really important and they are impacting the future and our future leaders of generations to come. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.